I think the craziest thing about life that became abundantly clear to me is that perception truly is everything. And the energy that you put out into the world is truly what you get back. It's incredibly easy, especially during this turn of the new decade, to feel like the world is just zipping past you at light speed. Meanwhile, you're stumbling, trying to make a feeble effort to keep up before the train of life arrives at its last stop, and you're the one left abandoned. That's the feeling that has stirred up within me these last few years as I've continued to age, and it caused me to reflect on instances from my past that I wish I would have perceived differently while they were happening. Don't get me wrong, I get it. Hindsight is 20/20. But only now am I beginning to comprehend the ability this life has given us to be able to craft our individual realities to our heart's desire, as well as our ability to damage it within that same vein. This is useful information, no doubt. But to what extent do we really have the God-given ability to control our own destiny? And when do we begin to realize that if we're not living the life that we've always wanted, it is our own fault? When do we take ownership of such a realization? And when do we acknowledge the fact that although the past can never be undone, this newfound discovery is the key to the future you've always wanted? I think every single one of us has crafted a reality in our minds that we've dreamt and fantasized about since we were children, that over time has changed and molded to fit the person we continue to evolve into over time. This dream is what many of us would give anything to achieve. It's the very foundation of what makes us who we are, and what gives us purpose and a sense of identity and direction. Just a little over 3 short years ago, I was a kid freshly dropped out of college who was desperately trying to find a sense of direction, accompanied by what I now recognize as a sense of purpose to justify why I did the things I did. What was even scarier than taking a step back from the status quo of college to get my mind right and figure out what I really wanted out of life was the perception and fear of becoming a nobody or a failure. When everybody your age is on their way to a college degree and you're working retail full-time, it's hard not to feel like you've somehow lost your way in comparison. 6 months after my departure from college led me to confront the question of, if not college, then what? What's my direction? What do I want out of life? Welcome to my channel, and today I just want to talk about, honestly, just doubts that like everybody has, especially me, like if you have anxiety. Oftentimes I'm realizing the answers reside in our childhood interests. And for me, I always had a thing for making and editing videos, messing around with Adobe software, YouTube, Sony Vegas, and other creative online tools. But I always found something special about crafting music together with a well put together video and how that can make somebody feel. Funny enough, Call of Duty montages would give me a very similar feeling to what I now search for in the things I create. I loved making videos and creating a feeling. It all just made sense. This is the direction my life needed to go in. So I decided to search how to become a videographer. The YouTube content rabbit hole of filmmaking tips, cinematic videos, and film-level storytelling grabbed my attention like no other. I was hooked. To be able to paint a picture from my mind and have somebody else feel an emotion or feel and experience what I felt in my head, to me, was something words couldn't even describe. But I now had a newfound sense of direction, and the path forward was anything but clear. I now was a 19-year-old kid with a freshly purchased Panasonic GH4, a notebook for taking videography and film notes, and a goal that felt insurmountable.
As the gun fired, Chris Brasher went into the lead and I slipped in effortlessly behind him, feeling tremendously full of running. My legs seemed to meet no resistance at all, almost as if impelled by an unknown force. We seemed to be going so slowly. Impatiently, I shouted faster, but Brasher kept his head and didn't change the pace.
Roger Bannister, a 25-year-old med student who on May 6 of 1954 was the first person to ever run a sub 4-minute mile. Roger ran his mile in 3 minutes and 59 seconds. This was nothing short of an athletic feat that many outright thought was simply impossible. People of Roger's time before this record-breaking event thought that the human body simply couldn't run a mile in under 4 minutes because the human body wouldn't be able to withstand the physical demand required to make it happen. The belief was you'd simply collapse under that kind of pressure. Even more incredible and thought-provoking than the fact that Roger broke the 4-minute mile that day was that he didn't hold the record for much longer than a month before others began breaking his record and running their own sub 4-minute miles. How could something of the caliber of running the 4-minute mile, which was seemingly impossible before Roger managed to do it, be broken not even a little more than a month after it was first done? The answer is the power of belief. It's not that people suddenly became 10 times faster after Roger broke the record. He simply displayed to these people who broke the record after him that it was possible. Enter Pete Maravich. Where in an old interview, Pete expressed that what he really didn't want to happen was for him to play basketball in the NBA for 10 years and then die at the age of 40. Sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Our thoughts and beliefs are much more powerful than we think they are. Great men across the spans of time have come to agree with this consensus. Earl Nightingale states that we become what we think about.
What he thinks about most of the time.
All we have to do is plant the seed of what we want to achieve, and it will eventually happen. Marcus Aurelius states the same consensus, saying, "A man's life is what his thoughts make of it." The Bible itself states clearly in Proverbs chapter 23 verse 7, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." This realization is not only profound, but it's also life-changing. But the catch-22 is that this rule works both ways. In the same way this works for us, in the example of individuals breaking the record after Roger Bannister, it can also work against us. Pete Maravich is an unfortunate display of that very real reality. The Bible once again states in Mark chapter 9 verse 23, Jesus said unto him, "If thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth." You may be thinking that by some chance all these instances may be mere coincidences, or that there is probably a better explanation for these occurrences that can be explained more logically. I don't necessarily blame you for feeling that way. But listen to this. Within our brains, we all have a system in place called the reticular activation system. This process allows you to see what you believe. Have you ever been in a scenario where you just bought a new car, or you're in the process of taking interest in a particular one, and why all of a sudden it then seems to pop up everywhere you go now that you're interested in it? It's not that this car is now magically following you as you go about your life on a day-to-day basis. It was always there. The only difference is that now your reticular activation system has deemed this car important to you. So you've begun opening your mind and attention to letting this car into your world when it presents itself. You don't believe what you see. You see what you believe. If you want to look for reasons to succeed, be rich, and be victorious in life, you will begin to see those opportunities. If you want to look and vouch for reasons you'll fail, that will be presented to you just as equally.
Today, I thought the wind was probably much too strong, but we did have a slight lull, and so there comes a moment when you've just got to try it. And I was very lucky to have my two friends, Chris Brasher and Chris Chataway, who helped make some of the running earlier on, and I certainly attribute a lot of it to their presence in the race, which gave me that extra.
All of this information is great and potentially life-changing, without a doubt. But what exactly do we do with it? The first point I want to try to bring to your attention to help you see the significance of why you need to master your beliefs is that wherever you currently are in your life, good and bad, is a result of your current beliefs and life paradigm. I spent the first 2 years of my filmmaking journey engaging mostly in content consumption, with not much action to back up my newfound knowledge and skill sets. It helped me become a better creative and sharpened my skills, no doubt, but the lack of action led to stagnation in my growth business-wise and growth towards my YouTube channel. Why do I mention all this? The deep-rooted belief in me was that I didn't have what it took to do this in a professional setting and pitch my skills to clients and all that came with it. I believed as well that my work wasn't up to par with what most companies and businesses would be looking for, so I didn't try. My experience with 3G Productions, a production company, and Immerse, an MRI company, allowed me to get myself into those settings and realize that was never true in the first place. But that doesn't mean the belief is easy to break. As I continue to look around at the filmmaking space, I also realized there were plenty of people who didn't have my skill set or level of quality creating videos that were making moves leaps and bounds above what I was doing. It's quite simple, really. They believed that it was possible for them. I didn't. Even scarier is that what we believe can completely overwrite objective reality, even when it's in our faces. I think we all can name at least one example of this. Craig Groeschel, in his book, Winning the War in Your Mind, states that a lie believed as truth will affect your life as if it were true. To make matters worse, if you've believed that lie for long enough, you don't even know that it's a lie anymore. That's just the lens that you're looking at life through, and it may very well be the only thing holding you back. Parents for decades have convinced their kids that Santa is real. If they behave and are good kids, Santa will bring them presents on Christmas, or if they're bad, they'll get a bag of coal or something. How does that kid tend to act after hearing that? They behave because they believe the lie as if it were true. It's a funny example, but there are not so funny ways this same premise is working in your life and mine. If we don't take time to figure out the lies we believe, we're destined for a life headed in the opposite direction of where we're trying to go. We tend to look at ourselves, our passions, and the pursuit of what fulfills our souls all wrong. In the early days of my filmmaking journey, and even moments expanding into my present, I spent so much time chasing a feeling I imagined in my mind that would indicate I had finally become a filmmaker. What I failed to realize is that it was that very same mindset that was holding me back from realizing my full potential. There never was going to be this golden defining moment crowning me a professional filmmaker or YouTuber. The identity of the filmmaker aligning himself with what he does the second he picks up the camera is when that title is rightly given to him. When you frame in your mind that you won't become a scientist or a singer until you've hit some miraculously meticulous goal you've set in your mind, you'll always walk around with that sense of imposter syndrome. You are what you say you are, or better yet, you are what you believe you are, and you'll never overcome the opinion of yourself. I'll never forget speaking with a motivational speaker at a networking event who told me that he knew I didn't really believe in myself, because if I did, I would have brought my camera with me to the event. It wouldn't have been a second thought. It would have just been an extension of who I was. Belief is the manifestation of your ability to put yourself in uncomfortable situations and even pain to get to your end result, because you know you'll come out on the other side having succeeded. This very video that you're currently watching has been in the works for about 1 year now. I've scripted, planned, and filmed sequences to be able to produce videos like this with storytelling at the center of it all. But have failed the most important step every time: execution. Deep down inside, I knew that this was what I really wanted, but being so overwhelmed by the insurmountable amount of work I needed to get to my end goal, I went into a sort of paralysis. I didn't believe I had what it took, even though I watched people in my similar situation do exactly what I was trying to achieve. If they could, why not me? Remember when I said that your life is a reflection of the thoughts you have and the things you believe? Early 2023, I was determined to post Instagram Reels and get back on my content creation grind. And I was posting more and creating more than I ever have. I was inspired by the ever-changing landscape of creativity all around me. Whether I like it or not, pain has always been a huge motivator for me. And my life circumstances, along with the right people, gave me the fire to try and ascend higher with every small step I took. Like clockwork though, all the momentum I would create would fizzle out after a matter of time. 2023 in short was a year filled with the pain of growth. And it has taken me until now to realize the problem wasn't all in my behaviors. My behaviors were the symptom of corrosive beliefs deeply embedded in my psyche that became my reality. We don't realize how often unconscious beliefs are the ones really running the show. You can't expect to genuinely change your life by waking up earlier in the morning or buying some new clothes. It may temporarily relieve you, but after enough time, you may find yourself right back where you started because you tried to put a bandage on internal bleeding. A real genuine life change starts with analyzing the very thoughts and beliefs that make the current version of you in the first place. And if they aren't serving you, it's time to create a new life paradigm from the ground up. For the better part of a decade now, if I sit back, reflect, and be honest with myself, my beliefs haven't been beliefs that would serve anybody very fruitfully. They have been littered with self-doubt, pessimism, isolation, and many other thought patterns that keep you in chains and bondage within your own mind, and that's exactly how I felt. Like a prisoner in my own body. Never fully being present in the moment and always having a sense of escapism at the center of everything I did. Even at this point, I haven't completely figured myself out by any means. The only way I've been able to find the clarity to figure out how to tackle the confines of my own mind is by eliminating the noise and giving myself a chance to focus. It's amazing what happens when you give yourself time to sit with your thoughts and ask why you believe what you believe and where those beliefs originated from in the first place. A famous quote from Lao Tzu says this: "Watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny." I quickly realized that my thoughts were leading me to a life completely opposite to where I was trying to be. And if I didn't attack these ways of thinking with everything I had, I'd look back at my life in regret, knowing the potential I wasted. Take a deep look at the life you're living and realize that every decision you've ever made is what got you there. Of course, there are things that are out of your control, but one of the few things within our control is how we frame the events in our lives, followed closely by the things we choose to believe. We can walk away from this realization having two states of mind. The first, the joy of realizing, although painfully difficult, there's a chance for you to see a side of life you've never seen before. A side of life locked behind unconscious lies, self-doubt, fears, and false beliefs. A side of life that we're taught is only for dreamers, whatever that's supposed to mean. Even though anything that's ever been created started out as a mere thought in somebody's mind. Or the second, you choose to conform to the lies your mind has told you all this time and continue to put bandages on internal wounds that will never fully heal because they will never be treated correctly. You will continue walking around bleeding out in a form of critical condition nobody else can see, giving up the free will to impact the reality you can experience. You allow the very thing that can create millions with a single thought that should be lifting you up and giving you the opportunity to shoot for the stars, run you into the ground. I'm not going to pretend it's easy. We've all heard the corny sayings that come along with following your dreams and the cliches. Whatever you want, whatever it is you want to be, whoever it is you want to become, just start by planting the very seed of that reality within your mind. Nurture it, cherish it, truly believe in it, and watch over time as it flourishes into the physical manifestation of everything you've always wanted, as long as you're willing to give all that you have to get there. But whether or not you think you can, or you think you can't, you're right.